This is The Law Show on CL 650. Now back to the show.
Good to have you with us this Sunday morning. Our guests from the personal injury Vancouver and Kelowna law firm, MurphyBatistta LLP, lawyers Scott Stanley and Bill Dick. And the program today has taken a decidedly sporty turn, and we're delighted with that because here we are in early February. We're in the middle of soccer, and baseball's coming, and lacrosse is now on, and hockey and skiing, you name it. And we talked a little bit earlier, guys, about amateur sports and the waivers that parents are asked to sign on behalf of our children. Well, now sometimes we get into these sports in which the grown-ups have to sign waivers too. Let me give you an example. I'm not a very sort of out there guy, but I do like the odd rush. And I've been down an Olympic bobsled run 3 times. Not Whistler yet. That's coming this year, 2015. I haven't been up there yet, but I've been down the one in Calgary 3 times. Average speed, 121 kilometers per hour. Thank you very much. At the top of the ride, they give you a little spiel about what's going to happen, and here's your helmet, and they fit you all. They fit you, they take their time fitting you in their helmet. And then they say, and now you just sign this waiver, and then we'll get you out there and we'll get you on the toboggan, and off you go. And I didn't care what the waiver said. I didn't even look at the waiver. All I said is, where do I sign? I got all 8 cylinders clicking. All I want to do is go screaming down this hill. So I signed, and off I went. 3 times, no less. What would have happened to me if I had been injured in any one of those 3 events? Bill, you want to take this one first?
Well, without actually having read the waiver, it's a little difficult to answer the question, but a good waiver will have bold letters highlighting what it is that you were signing. You're expected as an adult to, although I'm guessing the vast majority of people don't read the fine detail.
Right.
But it's a contract, and as a participant, you're expected to read and acknowledge what it is that you're signing as an adult.
Right.
And it may ultimately prevent you from suing the ski organization.
I'm getting this glance from Bill as he's telling me this, that I shouldn't indulge in such childish behavior anymore.
No, I would do it in a heartbeat, but I think it sounds like a lot of fun. But
well, it is fun, but at the same time, in hindsight, I didn't care what the waiver said, Bill. Yeah. I just wanted to go for a ride.
Sure.
And Scott, we do that all the time. Doesn't matter what the event or the activities, whitewater rafting, skydiving. Get me out there. Where do I sign?
Well, the last time my wife and I were in Maui, we decided the 2 of us, we'd leave the kids behind. The grandparents were going to go snorkeling out to the crater. And we signed the waiver, and of course I read it, and it says one of the risks is...
you would read it too now, wouldn't you?
I read it and signed it.
Imagine.
But one of the risks was you might be bitten by a shark.
Okay.
Shark attack is a possibility. And I probably wouldn't have gone on that trip if I had known there had been 3 shark attacks that week.
Oh.
Right? No, there hadn't been, but I need, the point is it's not enough to just provide the waiver, I think. They also have to give you some information, to state a risk that's obvious. I mean, if I'm walking on the road, I could be struck by lightning.
Sure.
I'm going to go on that snorkeling trip, but if it's communicated to me that in the last month we've had 7 shark attacks and 2 fatalities, I'm probably not going to go. And lo and behold, when we get out there, we start snorkeling. There's 4 people that have created a perimeter around the boat, and they've said, when you hear the whistle, if you hear a whistle, get back to the boat as quick as you can.
Right.
And they're obviously out there spotting sharks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could deduce that. I was sober. There were a lot of people on the boat that were drunk.
I
wondered if and I decided, I'm going to go with the risk. I think I can at least outswim 1 or 2 of these people.
Yeah.
Always go in shark-infested waters with a slow swimmer.
Back to your point, Bill, about grown-ups. We are given this permission to myself waiver slip to sign, and as grown-ups, we're expected to review it and in the cold light of day and authorize it. Well, you're absolutely right. If we're out there on vacation and somebody says, "Hey, you want to go whitewater rafting? Sure, let's go have a few liquid lunches, and then we'll get our courage up, and then we'll go do it." And then, so, you're not paying any attention to that stuff. So if I get injured, I fall out of my Zodiac going down and I almost drown and I get all bashed up, and I want to sue those guys because, they didn't take very good care of me. What grounds, if any, do I have, Bill?
Well, I mean, that's, the whole legal issue with waivers is not all waivers are drafted in the same fashion. And there are ways that you can attack waivers and get around them as lawyers, depending on who's written them and how airtight they are and what they have to say. So the first step as a lawyer, when I have a client who comes to me who's been injured in these adventure sports, is I want to look at the waiver, because there's lots of law on waivers that stand up and waivers that don't.
Oh, okay. So the waiver in itself may be invalid because it was poorly constructed.
That's right. And it may not set out the risks that you need to set out. And for example, if it doesn't say, a lot of waivers will say, no claim against us, even if we were negligent. But some waivers don't say that. And so it depends on the waiver itself and whether you can get around them. But the area of waivers and adventure sports is, waivers are allowed because a lot of these adventure sports and these industries would just cease to function if people could sue them all the time.
Right. Okay.
So they allow these waivers, and it's sort of like it's a balance. We'll allow you to do these things, but you, the customer, have to understand that what you're doing is inherently risky. And if you want to do it, that's great. You don't have to. No one's holding a gun to you, but you have to sign this waiver that you can't sue us, because what it is you're doing is inherently risky, and you have to acknowledge that. And if you get hurt, well, it's part of the risk.
If this waiver, Scott, just following up on what Bill said, if this waiver says you can't sue us even if we're negligent, and you sign that, okay, great, and then you get hurt, and you're angry and you want to sue, and you can prove that they were negligent, do you have a case, even if you signed a waiver that said you're excused even if you were negligent?
Again, depending upon the waiver, but probably not. I mean, in the UK, they've done away with waivers. And the argument there was, if you do away with waivers, you're going to do away with the adventure sport industry. And that just simply hasn't happened. In fact, all these crazy sports come from the UK, it seems. So they are the, they're the industry leaders, if you will. So it hasn't affected adventure sport in the UK, and I don't think it would affect it here. It might become more expensive, but I'm okay with that.
If there aren't any waivers, now we're living in an environment where you can't do anything without signing some kind of release, some kind of waiver. Since they've done away with that whole practice, what's happened to extreme sports in the UK? I would assume more lawsuits because no waivers. It's open season now, or what?
I don't know what's happened vis-a-vis the lawsuits, but I know that it hasn't done anything to the industry.
Hasn't slowed them down.
I don't think it's perhaps grown as quick as it might have, but it certainly hasn't made it go away, and it has continued to expand.
Because what they want is for those industries to have adequate insurance.
Right.
And that will protect the industry ultimately from the lawsuits. It might mean that your premiums go up as an industry, but they'll still exist. And the other thing, the argument the argument for abolishing waivers is it makes people more responsible. If they know that you're going to have a potential to get sued, you're going to be really, really careful in terms of attaching that bungee cord properly.
Right, of course.
So it makes them more accountable.
Bungee cords. Now that's one and I'm the guy that just told you about going down the bobsled ride. You couldn't get me to jump off a bridge attached to a bungee cord with a gun stuck in my ear. That's way out there in terms of risk. And they make you sign waivers. There's one over in Nanaimo. It's not far. They're all over the place, and they make you sign waivers too.
Sure.
And so suppose the cord snaps.
Well, I would be less concerned about the cord snapping than my spinal cord snapping.
Okay. All right.
That's the concern I would have. It's probably safe, but just as a layperson, I wouldn't go anywhere near it.
So if you did experience a spinal cord injury as a result of that, it would depend on the waiver whether you had a legal leg to stand on vis-a-vis suing those guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, Bill, he's still scolding me with his eyes for not reading all the chapter and verse of the waiver, but we really do need to be a little more conscious of what we're signing off on, don't we?
We do, yeah. I mean, it's easy as lawyers. I mean, we will read them because that's what we do. And I'm also very familiar with waivers, and so is Scott. And so you'll want to read them.
So one good way of knowing about it then would be if I'm going to do a whitewater rafting thing up in on the Thompson River, well, then I can Google that company, go to their website, and read their waiver before I even arrive. So that would be the responsible way. So even if I do arrive and I have a couple of pops before I go for my boat ride, I've read the waiver in the cold light of day.
But I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't about a lawsuit. This is about just making good, safe decisions for you and your family. And there are some people that there's some of these companies that are incredibly safe and well run, and those that are not. And just make some inquiries. If you're going to do something that is, inherently dangerous, make sure the people that are doing it are inherently concerned about your safety.
Right. A little homework goes an awfully long way.
Just phone them up and say, when was the last time someone died here?
Oh.
You just ask them point blank.
And I'm sure the receptionist would be just tickled to have that conversation with you now.
Yeah.
But at least you can challenge them, can't you?
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break here. We're talking a lot of sports and a lot of legalities surrounding sports and sports injuries with our guests from MurphyBatistta, LLP, Vancouver and Kelowna now, a personal injury firm. Our guests are Scott Stanley and Bill Dick, and we're back with lots more on The Law Show following these messages.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CL 650.